Hi to everyone. My name's Lynn. I'm the product manager for the team that have been developing the Enter Learning Data service, and I've got my colleague Sue along with me as well.
Hi.
So we're going to do a little bit of an introduction into the service. We'll then do a demonstration of how the service works, and then at the end there'll be a time to take any questions. So just as a little bit of background, so Enter Learning Data is a service available for all trading providers, including employee providers who need to return the ILR data to Department of Education, but who don't have a data management system, or for those providers and employee providers who are thinking about moving from the current system. As Lynn mentioned, we're replacing the learner entry tool. So that's quite an old system. It's been around for a while, and we're aware that it can be difficult, especially for new people coming on board, and there are some limitations with it. This new service that we've developed is also available free of charge. And there is a link to access the service from the homepage of Submit Learner Data. And I think after the session, we're going to circulate the slides, so we'll make sure we've got a link available as well so that you can all access it. This is an online service, so different to Learn tool. So you will need a DfE Sign-in account to access the service. If you already have a DfE Sign-in account that you use for accessing things like the apprenticeship service or Submit Learner Data, you can just add the role onto that account to access our service. And the role for Enter Learner Data exists within the Submit Learner Data service within DfE Sign-in. We've been designing Enter Learner Data for a little while now, and we're really trying to offer a better user experience for our users with lots of benefits. Focused on reducing data duplication when using the system. So trying to have concepts where you can enter data once and use it multiple times. We've got some real-time validation in the service. So as you're entering your data, you'll get validation errors to try and help you get that data right at the first point of entry, rather than kind of having to go back and revisit fields. We've built it with guided user journeys, so you'll only see the ILR fields that are relevant for the type of provision, the type of learners that you're entering onto the service. We appreciate that in the Learn Entry tool, you see all of the ILR fields, which is a significant amount of data. So we've really tailored these journeys to be specific to the types of provision that you're delivering. Within the service, we've got hint text on screen and links out to guidance on those areas where users have fed back that it's slightly more complex, or they might want a bit of support in understanding what to fill in. And those links are at the appropriate point in the service. We've also got links out to other DfE services that kind of support the collection and return of the ILR data. So services like Find a Learning Aim, if you want to check which apprenticeship standard you need or what learning aims you need to add. And also links to the Learning Record service, so that when you're adding a learner, you can check that you've got the right unique learner number, or even search for the unique learner number at that point. As I mentioned on the previous slide, it's an online web service using DfE Sign-in. And what this means is that each organisation can have multiple people accessing the service. So unlike Learner Entry tool, where it was a kind of single user, you can now have more than one person per provider accessing the service. And then finally, the data stored within the DfE environment. So that minimises some of the sort of risks for cybersecurity, because the data is protected within our environment. We've developed Enter Learning Data with a range of features available at the minute. We're constantly kind of developing the service. There is more to come. But in terms of what features are available right now, you can add and manage your learners. So creating new learners, updating learners as they progress courses. You can add and manage courses. So the courses is a new concept for Enter Learning Data. And that's one of the ways that we've tried to reduce some of the data duplication, by letting you create a course once and then assign it to multiple learners. You can import data in, so an ILR file either from the Learn Entry tool or another MI system. And for most people, we expect that to be a one-off activity that you'll do the first time you start using the service. We've designed Enter Learning Data to be a multi-year solution. So whereas with Learn Entry tool, there's a different version per year, within ELD, you have the ability to choose the academic year that you want to work on. And so we've built a functionality for you to migrate your data. So when the new year becomes available, you can migrate the data from the kind of current year to the next year, and the system will apply the migration rules for you. So it will identify which learners need to be migrated and leave the rest in the year they're in. The data will then exist twice. So any changes that you make, you will still need to make twice, because that allows you to make changes just to the relevant year. And then finally, you can export the data. So in the same way that you do from Learner Entry Tool or another MI system, you can export the ILR file ready to use in one of our other services. And you can, within Enter Learner Data, there's an export history page, so you can always go back and access files that you've previously exported, so they will remain available for users. As part of the process of developing the service, we've done an awful lot of user research with different provider groups to make sure that we're designing a service that meets the needs of our users. We are still developing the service, and we're still continuing to do further research. So there is a survey if you'd like to take part in a future opportunity. And again, we'll share the link after the session. But it really helps us to hear from our users on how they'd like the service to operate, and also any pain points they find when using the new service or using the old service, just so we can make sure we're addressing those. We have had a lot of really positive feedback from people that have been using the new service. So people have found it much faster and more user friendly and a more streamlined service. So we hope that what we've built will make everyone's lives easier when sort of trying to manage this complex data set. I'm just going to stop sharing now so I can reshare a different screen and hopefully do a demo then of the service. So hopefully now you can see the Enter Learning Data homepage. So this is what you'll see once you log in to the service. So you can see at the top here, it mentioned it being multi-year. This is where you're able to pick the academic year that you want to operate in. So I'm in the 25-26 year. What I'll do is I'll go through the different journeys just to kind of show how that works. So we'll start off with creating a course. So as we said, this is quite a new concept for Enter Learning Data. And what this allows you to do is to create, for example, an apprenticeship standard course, and then use that for a group of learners. So whether those learners all start on the same day or start at different times, you can still use one course to cover a range of learners. So I'll go through the journey to add a course. The course title is just what you want the course to be called. So that's an internal name of something that will be helpful for yourselves managing the data. Some providers are entering kind of like the academic year it relates to, or a start month, but it's really up to you what you want to use in there. The course type, at the moment, available within the service, we've got apprenticeship standards under funding model 36 and also other 16 to 19 funding. We'll gradually be introducing more funding models. So the next one that we're working on is non-funded apprenticeships. But over time, that list will evolve as we add in different types of provision. We then add a start date for the course. This date, when you add a learner to a course, you can change that date. This is just kind of putting in an overall date for the course and an end date. And then the delivery location postcode. And this is an example of where we've got a link out to guidance that if you need to go and read further about that field, it will just take you to the relevant place in the ILR specification, and it will take you to the specific page of the ILR. Click continue. On this page, we're going to pick the apprenticeship standard that we're delivering. So again, we've got a link out to the Find a Learning Aim service if you want to go and have a look at the standards that are available, or if you know what you are delivering, you can start typing and the search will display a list of relevant results. So you can pick the standard, and once you've chosen your standard, you just get a second link here which will take you to that particular standard that you've selected, just if you want to go and review any of the information. What we now do is we identify a suggested learning aim based on the standard that you've chosen, and this comes from Find a Learning Aim. So this is the kind of non-regulated code that links to that standard. You can choose whether you want to add this learning aim to the course, or if you don't deliver it in that way and you want to add maybe like an MVQ or other type of qualification, you can click to add a different learning aim. I'll select to add this one. Check about whether you're delivering it. So this is all to do with the sort of subcontracting ILR field. Click continue, and it then just confirms the data that you've entered and click continue. It then takes you through to a section to add training and assessment price. So you can make a decision about whether you want to add some into the course, which then gets applied to each learner, or if you have very different prices, you can just choose to miss this bit out and add it on a per learner basis. But I will go through and add it just so you can see what the screens look like. So we enter that it's a training price. This is an example of the kind of hint text that we've got in the service. So a little bit of an explanation about this data field. And again, a link out to a more comprehensive guidance if needed. I'll enter a price. In a lot of the date questions, we use a very similar format where we sort of suggest that you might want to use the course start date and remind you what that date is, or you can choose to enter a different date. So it's very flexible depending on what you need. We'll now go through and select an endpoint assessment. So again, on this drop down, as you start typing, it will start to filter the results and it will only show the endpoint assessment organisations that are valid for the standard that you've picked. So it will only show you a sort of a broken down list, but it means then you're selecting one of the ones that is valid for the course that you've picked. Click to add the price, and again choose the date. And at that point, you've now created the kind of the basic course that you need. So we'll go on to add a learner. So when we click through to add a learner, there's two options that you can use. If you know what their unique learner number is, you can enter that here, and we'll do a link back to the learner record service. If you don't have the unique learner number and you say no, it will ask you to go and search by demographic information. In the same way that you would do an LRS. It just means you can do it all from within this one service rather than having to go and log into a different service. So when we click continue, it brings back the results it's found from the learning record service. Now, when you search with the unique learner number, it will only ever bring you back one record. It will either find an exact match or it will say there isn't a match. If you search by demographic, so if you enter things like a postcode and date of birth, you might get multiple results back, and then you can then pick which record that you want to proceed with. So I will save this learner. So then it's asking me to choose which course I want to add the learner to. So I'll pick the new course that we just created. And then at this point, as we said in the course, you can either use the dates we've entered, or you can choose to enter a different date. So it allows you different options of how to enter that. So I'll tick to use the dates that we've selected. So this is for the overall course. We then get the ones for the individual learning aim. Then the planned off-the-job training hours, and again, another link out to the guidance. We call out the fields that are optional where you can choose if you need to complete it or not. The agreement ID is obviously a new requirement if you're using the simplified payment system between the apprenticeship service and the ILR. So I know we did have a question in advance about the apprenticeship service. So we don't have any direct links at the minute between Enter Learning data and the apprenticeship service. But you can obviously, if you upload your file to submit learner data, you can then use your ILR data to generate the apprenticeship service records, and the agreement ID field is part of that process. I'll just skip that for now. So again, these questions are optional because you can choose whether you need to complete them or not. And at this point, the system is just sort of giving you a summary of what you've entered, so you can check that all the information that you've entered is correct. This is bringing in the information that's pulled through from the course that we enter to the price. So you can at this point click to change and go and change any of that information if you do realise that you need to enter a specific price for this learner. I'll save and continue. And what it does now is it takes you back to kind of finish the learner record. And I know we've had a previous question about the sort of journey feeling a little bit that you go through the course and then you go back to the learner record. And this is because we've tailored these questions based on the type of course that you've added your learner to. So, for example, national insurance number is required for learners on an apprenticeship course, but it isn't required for some other types of provision. So we get you to add the learner to the course first. Then once we know what kind of course they're on, we can make sure you only see the relevant fields that you need to complete as we go. So let me just go through. And this will this is using the postcode that we got back from the learner records service. It's suggesting that there are these addresses that are attached to that one, so you can pick the address that you need. Postcode prior to enrolment, it's suggesting do you want to use the same address as the postcode or enter a different one. And again, the contact information is coming through from the learner record service. For the disability and health section, if you tick yes, that the learner does consider themselves to have a learning difficulty, disability or health problem, you'll then see a page where you get to pick what they've declared. If you say no to that first screen, you don't see this page because there's no requirement to fill it in. If you select one option from this list, it will default that one in to be the primary. If you then select a second one, we take that out because you then have to choose which one is the primary one as declared by the learner. So I'll just fill that in. Then prior attainment. Again, in the employment status section, we have tailored the question. So because we've picked in paid employment, on this screen, we see questions about how many hours per week do they work and how long have they been employed. If on that first screen we'd selected they were unemployed, these questions would be tailored to match that. So how long have they been unemployed for? So I'll just fill in the employer ID. And again, we've got a link out to the employer ID search that exists within Submit Learner Data if you do need to go and use that. Fill these questions in. And at that point, we've finished the journey of creating a course and adding a learner to that course. And if we go back to the course, we'll now see we've got a learner on there. And you can then use all that information that you've entered for as many learners as you've got on the same course. The final bit that we need to enter on this learner is just the LDM code for employer providers. So I'll just go in and do that now. So at the right hand side, we've got links to sort of some other actions. So under the more actions, if you want to remove a learner from a course, if you realise that you've added them to the wrong course, if you want to delete a learner entirely, that will delete them from the entire service. That is only to be used if you have entered somebody that either never turned up on day one or you realise that you've entered them, for example, into the wrong year, you can choose to delete them. And then in the second section, we've got sort of additional data items. So funding and monitoring, additional reference numbers. So that's things like the previous learner reference number if they've had a change in that number. So I will go into funding and monitoring, pick that we want to add a code to the learning aims, select that it's an LDM code, pick the aims that I want to apply it to. So you can search in here by the actual code if you know what it is, or you can start typing the description and it will give you some options and then click continue. And then it just confirms here the code that you've entered and which aims that you picked to, and then I will save and continue. And that is the learner kind of created, and we can see that they're continuing on that course. When you want to make any updates to the learners, if you want to record that they've completed the program or they've withdrawn or gone on a break in learning, we use the record and update button. So if I select that, and this will be tailored to only show you options that are valid. So because this learner is currently continuing on the course, we can either record a completion, a break in learning, or a withdrawal. If they want a break in learning, the list will be tailored so that you could only see the ones that were relevant for them. So I'll just go through the learner completion journey. So it first off asks for the learning actual end date. Asks for the outcome. Grade. And then it will ask you if they've completed the program aim. So obviously in this example, we've only got the kind of non-regulated code. If, for example, they're doing functional skills, you can record that the functional skills is completed, select no here, and that would finish the journey, and you could leave the rest of the course continuing. So it just allows you to kind of manage the aims as you need to. Click continue at that point. So again, it's now asking me for the learning actual end date for the program aim, confirmation of the hours they achieved, and then an achievement date. And then now you can see that for this learner, their status is now changed, show them as completed, and it's got in here a summary of the data that you've entered. I'm just going to finish off by quickly just showing the export screen. So the export page will show you a list of all the learners that you've got in the service that we think are able to be included in the export file. If you want to, you can unselect a learner. So if you know that learner, for example, shouldn't be included, you can choose to untick them, and it will tell you here how many you've currently got selected, and then if you want to view your history of files, so as we mentioned, you can always go back on this view export history. You'll see a list here of when the file was created, who created it, and you can open the file there. So that's the XML file that you're used to seeing. I will just stop sharing again, and I will go back to the slides to finish off. So in terms of what happens next, so once you've created all of your learner records and you've got everything ready, your exported file will need to be uploaded to submit learner data. So that's the same process that you will go through now. You do need a DfE Sign-in account to access submit learner data. But again, as I said at the beginning, one account will give you access to all the services. Once you've submitted your file on submit learner data, it's really important that you go and have a look at the reports that are produced. So the rule violations reports will let you know if any learners have failed validation. And that's really important because any learners that have validation errors won't generate any funding. You can also check your funding reports to make sure the data is as you expect it to be. And if you choose to, you can use FIS, which is the Funding Information Service, to generate reports before uploading to submit learner data. Those reports are indicative. They run the majority of the ILR validation, but not quite the full set. And because they don't have access to all of the reference data, some of the funding can vary slightly, but they will give you a good indication of what you're going to get. But the reports in submit learner data will obviously be accurate. They are what you use for payment. So it is important that once you've exported your data, you submit it on SLD and you go and have a look at those reports. Alongside the funding reports that you'll get in submit learner data, there's also a new dashboard that went live last year called Understand Your Funding, and that is available to anybody that's got access to submit ILR files. If you've got colleagues that want access to the dashboard but who don't have access to submit ILR files, there is a specific role that they can be given, which gives you access to the dashboards only and not to the named data. So, for example, if you've got people in finance that want to access it, the dashboard is updated each time you submit an ILR file, so it's a real-time representation of the funding that you've generated. And there are a number of different dashboards available. So they will show you total funding for the current period and year to date. You can do year-on-year comparisons, both on learner numbers and funding values. You can do breakdowns by different funding models. And we've also got some new dashboards that went live just in August that show a count of learners by status. And you can download the list of those learners. So if you want to see all of your learners that are on a break in learning, or all of your learners that are withdrawn, go and see that from those dashboards. And again, when we send the slides out, I'll add a few notes on the different sort of DfE Sign-in roles that you may need to access these different parts of the service. And then finally, just really sort of call out some of the help and support materials that are available. So for Enter Learning Data, we have created a guidance page on gov.uk that's got a kind of explanation of different features and some hints and tips on how to use it. The community site we do use, so we will put updates on there as we release new features. That's where we kind of announce the launch of the service. But you can also use that to ask questions of other providers and employee providers if there's things that you need help with. And then finally, if you do need to generate a help desk ticket, the customer help portal's available, and they will resolve the queries, or if they can't, they will escalate it to my team if it needs a little bit more of a technical support on that. So there is help available for anyone using the new service. That's it in terms of slides. So I think now we're just over to any questions.
Thanks for that, Lynn. And yes, everyone, if you can raise the virtual hand if you want to come on and ask a question, or like I said earlier on, if you pop it in the chat and we can pick it up from there. Thank you.
I've just seen one in the chat, so I'll answer that one first. So you can use Enter Learning Data to create and manage your data. Then you need to enter it into Submit Learner Data. You don't need to use Learner Entry Tool at all anymore. So Enter Learning Data is replacing the Learner Entry Tool. Just need to take the file and put it into Submit Learner Data, and that's just services that you'll need.
So yeah, the other questions we've had in the chat around whether this service needs to be used at all if you've got another system such as Bud. The answer would be no. You can use one or the other.
Yeah.
And whether the this is connected to the apprenticeship service, whether ELD is connected to the apprenticeship service. And no, it's not connected to the apprenticeship service, and you will still need to upload your ILR file into Submit Learner Data.
Yes, I just see some more coming through. So in terms of limits, there are no limits for how many learners you can have in Enter Learning Data. So there was a limit in the Learner Entry Tool. That limit is removed now for Enter Learning Data, and we've actually got one provider using it with just over 2,000 learners. So there are no limits. On some of the pages where you list out your sort of learner list, change how many learners you see on page to recognise that we've got providers with different numbers of learners, but yeah, no restrictions on that. I can see one from someone who's saying they can't access it. If I can get your email address afterwards from one of the organisers of the call, I can have a look into that and check what's going on. Enter Learning Data is available now for anyone delivering funded apprenticeships under funding model 36 and other 16-19 funding. The other funding models are kind of still in flight and are coming along. So if you only deliver apprenticeships under funding model 36, you're able to use it now. And we've got people already using it. So in 24-25, we had a small set of providers using it and testing it for us and helping us with feedback, but it's now available to everybody that delivers apprenticeships.
And then one more comment here. So as a provider, we could use the Enter Learning Data tool to generate an ILR file, download the file, then upload within the Submit Learner Data webpage. Yes. Yes, you'll still need to upload that file to Submit Learner Data. So yes, use Enter Learning Data to manage your learners, export the ILR file when you're happy that your data is correct, and then upload that into Submit Learner Data.
I can see one here, so somebody wanting to move. So yeah, you can move from an external system into Entler data. All you need is the ILR file. I would suggest doing it after R14 if you're already submitting data, just that you're only doing it for 1 year. But once you load your ILR file into the service, you can then just use Entler data to manage your learners as you go. So it should be straightforward. And it's available free of charge, so you can always go in and have a kind of test of it before you make that final switch. But one of our kind of hopes of the new service is that we've built something that removes some of the technical limitations that stop people using it, but also is a much nicer system to use, so that actually people can stop paying for systems and use the one that we offer free of charge.
So kind of to follow on from there, is there future scope to batch upload learner data to this tool via Excel, for example? Not particularly via Excel. As Lynn just explained, you could batch upload them using your existing ILR files if you were to switch from another system. Not currently in our scope to look at Excel.
Then if you get errors back, is it easy enough to find the field? Yes. So in fact, that's the one bit I didn't show. Let me see if I can switch my screen that I'm sharing again. And if I just go back in and show a little bit about the errors, because that is quite different. So in the service, we'll have at the top of this learner list that we've got a learner with invalid information. If I click into that error, it tells me which learner I've got, which errors generated. We don't have all of the ILR validation rules in the service, but we are starting to add some of them in. So on here, it lists out which are the validation rules that have caused a problem. So if I click onto one of these, it gives you the problem and then it gives you a solution. Now, for a lot of these, there is just one solution, which is enter the field that you haven't completed. For some rules in the future, there might be multiple ways that you could resolve that problem. If I click change here, it will take me straight to the field that that you need to enter, and then you can save your data and continue. And then it will take you back to kind of go on to the next question, and it will do that for all of those rules. So it will take you directly to the place that you need to get to. In terms of returning learners from break and learning, yes, I don't think I can show that because I haven't got learn on a break and learning, but one of the record and update journeys is to start. So it's a much simplified user journey. Just looking at questions. Switch after R14. Yeah, so the support team, if you raise a help desk ticket, those queries will come through to me and my team. We can help with those, or we can arrange a call to speak to you if you've got particular things that you're concerned about with the data. So yeah, those queries that get raised with the help desk will come through to my team, and we can support people that are moving over.
Sorry, I missed. Lynn, did you respond to the when on a break in learning?
Yes, I said it's a simpler journey. I've just not got the test data set up for that one. Yeah, we'll resend the links out for the service.
So non-funded apprenticeships are what we're currently working on now. So we anticipate those being available shortly. So at the moment, it can be used only for funded apprenticeships, but hopefully very shortly also non-funded apprenticeships.
And I've just seen a follow-up to the batch question. So the way the system's designed is for adding new learners, you will need to go through that journey. We haven't got a mechanism to kind of because you've got to collate the data anyway, but it's helpful to get that feedback, and it's something we can kind of add to our plans for further research, see if that kind of functionality something that we need to look into. but it would just be. But also once you've created the course and you're just doing the Add Learner, it's a smaller journey than what I sort of demonstrated, because you'd reuse the course bit, you only do that once. So hopefully it would be quicker than some of the systems. But yeah, we appreciate you still do have to enter it one at a time. There's a question there about so there's a guidance document which gives an overview of how to use enter learning data. And when we send the slides out, there is a link in the slides to that guidance page. So that gives an overview of the different kind of features of the service and explains a little bit about like migration and multi-year and some of the new kind of concepts that we've got.
Thanks, Lynn. Oh, I can just see, I was just going to say thanks, Lynn and Sue, for taking those questions, but I can just see there's another one popped in there. I don't know if somebody wants to take that one.
You can change the delivery location postcode at a learner level, I think. So you'd be able to create the course, add all your learners. You just have to change it for the learners where it's different. But if everything else is the same, you could use the one course.
Yeah, it depends how large your cohorts are. You might find it easier to create, say, 2 courses, one each with a different postcode. That means every learner added to one would be at a certain location, everyone at another. But yeah, it's up to you how you do it, really. You can just create the one course and change the postcode at a learner level.
Thanks again, Lynn and Sue, for that really useful session, and I hope everybody out there did enjoy that and got some of the information that you need to move forward with ELD. Like I said at the start of the session, the slides will be shared along with a link to our YouTube recording, and you will have that within the week once we've edited it and got it uploaded. So thank you for that. And unless anybody else has got anything else, just to finally close on the session, I think I can give everybody a few minutes of their afternoon back. So thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.